Hello, Mary Suvians, and welcome to our Legion recap.
Yes, what happened to Legion is probably the biggest question.
I had no idea what was going on. I felt like I was taking a giant acid trip, but I feel like that was the intent. But I guess before we get into it, Legion is it's a Marvel show, technically, about a mutant named David.
I will say that I was kind of hesitant at first because I feel like when shows address mental health, especially when the superpowers are involved, there's a tendency to be like, oh, your disease is actually a superpower. Something Legion did really well was that it combined those two. Like, he has this power, but he also clearly has a lot of mental issues too, and the two can exist at the same time. It kind of reminds me a little bit of how in Days of Future Past, we saw Professor X being in a really bad mental state, and it felt really realistic. It's like, yeah, if you're like telepathic and you have these powers, you're probably going to have some other issues too.
The way that it was shot, I think that was my favorite thing about this show. It sets the mood very differently from any other show that you will see on TV in this comic book superhero phase that we're going through, because it reminds me of a David Lynch film.
Yeah, it was great. I really liked all the weird angles. It was really beautiful in a lot of ways. I really love the dance sequence. I don't know if that's a controversial opinion, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and there was so much color. Like, it's not, I don't want to, let me not rag on other shows, but, you know, there just seems to be this consistent color scheme for most shows, and this one, it just went from dark to light, medium, different colors.
That's a big relief, I feel like, when we watch a lot of super movies. We're just like, oh, monochromatic grittiness. This is so original.
How do you feel about Sydney Barrett?
Sydney Barrett, when she first appeared, I was kind of like, yes, she's so different and cool and standoffish, but I really like her.
Yeah, I think she's interesting, and when I first saw her, I thought she's just gonna be like the cute little all-American, because like when you first see her, and David looks at her, and he has that musical moment. Yeah. Of that slow motion, you're thinking, oh gosh, another pretty girl.
She's gonna save him with her love and her vulnerability, and then leave when she's done. But yeah, she's interesting. She's badass. She has a whole another background of her own, and I genuinely believed in their relationship, and it's like feels like a very beautiful mutual thing in David's otherwise really bleak life.
So my girl Jean Smart, if anyone has ever seen the fabulous 80s sitcom Designing Women, she's from that show, and she plays Melanie Bird in this series, and she's basically the boss lady that is supposedly helping David. Now, do you trust her?
I don't know. I think there's always been kind of a weird dark undertone of like getting teens, they're not teens, are they? Because it's not like X-Men, yeah. But also just like recruiting these people into your army. But it's also a safe space. Like, it's the classic example of a safe space. So we'll have to see. I feel like things can't be that easy for him. Like, they can't go that well because we still have a whole season ahead of us. So we'll just have to see.
Yes, and I don't trust people in power. If I've learned from any X-Men movie, it's you do not trust the people in power, because they always have their own agenda, no matter how nice they may seem. Not everyone is Charles Xavier. Another character that I was really excited about was Aubrey Plaza's character.
Oh, yeah.
Oh gosh, what was her name?
Should we look that up?
I can look it up.
Google it.
It's Lenny.
Lenny.
Yeah.
But Lenny was really interesting. I don't really get this Aubrey Plaza very often.
Yeah, right?
She's very weird and kooky, but sad at the same time.
I mean, that flashback he had, I don't know if it's like a ghost or his own sort of hallucination when he sees her again, but I really like that moment where she talks to him and you can get a glimpse at like a friendship or even a like camaraderie that they had long back, and her loss. It's kind of, I think that you feel the loss of her as a friend.
And it's really sad because, yeah, she's dead and he feels really bad for it, even though it really technically wasn't him. Sydney and him switched bodies at one point, and Sydney in his body ends up killing her, like, by phasing her through a wall, apparently.
All the doors become walls.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And she has this line when he apologizes for killing her, and then she says, well, you know, what else was I going to do? Pop pills for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
And I just felt so bad for her, and thinking about people in those situations where, in the institutions where they are just, you know,
Yeah.
just taking drugs and being numb for.
Yeah, it was definitely the power of the pilot is like kind of showing how devastating mental illness can be, and not dismissing that when you find out that David has powers. I think it did everything a pilot is supposed to do, which is to get you curious, which is to like set up all these things that might become relevant later on. And I appreciated that it wasn't kind of the hand-holding type of pilot where it's like, oh, your powers work like this, this, and this. You can do this, but you can't do this under this situation. And this is their power. Like, I appreciated the lack of hand-holding because I think it builds more intrigue, and I'm really excited to see how it unfolds.
Yeah, and it made me want to Google everybody and just really figure out what is going on with this Bonkers plot, because now David's out. They you know, kind of jailbroke him. The government's after him because apparently he's probably the most powerful mutant that they know. Although is Storm in this world, because I feel like she's the most powerful one.
I guess if anyone hasn't seen Legion, though, we should probably put like a huge trigger warning on suicide, self-harm, and mental illness, though, because it very much does not shy away from that. You see Dan Stevens attempt suicide very early on. So
yeah.
I might have enjoyed a little warning about that. You might too.
But the way that it was handled, though, it wasn't gratuitous. It wasn't, you know, in your face in that sense.
It wasn't made into a spectacle.
Yeah. It was very well, it's tastefully done. I will say this show is very tasteful in the way that it handles these heavy topics. And it's just so fascinating and deeper. There's meaning in this show. Guys, there's meaning in this show. It's
That's
beautiful.
I think we really have to praise Dan Stevens. He does like a really good job in this role. Like his body language is phenomenal. You really see him as this very sad, broken, paranoid person. And at the end, when you get this wide expanse and you get solid ground and you get like someone reaching out to him, it's so powerful and you really root for him. So Noah Hawley, the showrunner and director of this episode and the show, he also was a showrunner for Fargo, but you said it feels like he is a huge fan of David Lynch.
Yes, there were certain sequences that are so beautifully cut and just wild that it felt like you were watching watching Mulholland Drive, and that's a huge David Lynch movie, so definitely go see that. And especially with the man or the devil with the yellow eyes.
There's a lot of like horror elements to the show so far. There's a lot of like that scene where she's on like the back of someone's head, that kind of body horror combined with the devil with the yellow eyes.
Yes, and then just that just creepy dudes chilling in the corner with the yellow eyes, just it just takes you to David Lynch. That's the first thought. So obviously he's a big Lynch fan. Fanboy.
Yeah, there's like a lot of tropes and like horror tropes too, like the floating, levitating bed, all these other things. I'm excited to see if that kind of sticks to the tone because I felt like it was very much ingrained with the mental asylum or the institution. And so it'll be interesting to see if that tone sticks with him even when he leaves.
Yeah, and the thing that I can really appreciate about this is, yes, it's Marvel. Yes, it's X-Men, but it's not like anything you've ever seen before, because yes, we have mutants, and all of the movies, they may have these powers and you may see explosions, but it's very traditional, whereas this is taking on a very artistic approach, a very unique approach.
Yeah, there are no like coordinated outfits yet.
Yeah. Like, wouldn't it be cool if Doctor Strange took this sort of route? Can you imagine that kind of a movie?
Yeah, it definitely lived up to the hype. People were saying it's going to be a new show, it's going to be unlike anything we've seen before, and I think it definitely lived up to that.
Yeah, they really tried it, and they did the damn thing. I really enjoyed this episode. It was great. How did you guys feel about the show? Do you like this new take on the universe? And where do you think we're going to go next? No spoilers! Bye.